G'day punters and welcome to Tab's Inside 50. I'm Nick Quinn and as per usual, the superstar from Hawthorn, Shane Crawford. Crawf, welcome to another soon-to-be award-winning episode.
Soon to be. Hello, Nicholas Quinn. How are you? I'm just looking at your peppermint socks. Very, very nice. And you've dressed up. This is the first time I've seen you really dressed up. So what's happening at the moment?
Yes, I've got the navy blue top on today, which is a little tribute to our guest, and our guest this week is...
Ball still alive here. Gibbons picks it up, kicks it around the body. It's bending, and he's finally got his first as a blue.
Did really well there, Nev, to bring it to ground. Now Gibbons has an opportunity. Steadies, lines up from 38 metres out. Here come the Navy Blues.
What a great finish from Gibbons.
There we go.
From 38 metres out. How did they work out 38? Why wasn't it 40?
Our guest this week, Michael Gibbons, 47 games, 35 goals for the Carlton Footy Club. And most important, a tribute to yourself on YouTube where you've got all your goals in one collection. So I don't know which one of your friends or family members did that, but they've done a bloody good job.
That might have been Mum, actually. Thanks for having me, boys.
Which one was your best goal? Against who?
The Collingwood one.
Yeah.
There's the one in Collingwood where I stepped Darcy Moore. I think that's probably my favourite.
Yeah.
Before the little checky. Yeah, that was a nice one.
Well, there we go. A little pump-up video to get you going. But thanks
Perfect.
for having a chat to us today. And your story, it's a bit unique. You had to do it the hard way to get in the AFL system. And a lot of people think you're very hard done by to not still be in the AFL system. Tell us about where it all started. Where'd you grow up playing your junior footy in New South Wales?
Yeah, so I'm originally from a really small town called Coolman. Cross a country boy has never heard of it, so that's a good start for
near
us.
Wagga, north of Wagga.
North of Wagga, yeah. So I grew up in Coolman, town of about 1,000 people, and yeah, I started playing senior footy there when I was about 14 or so. Played all my juniors there, and then
So they were playing AFL footy there. Yeah, I know Wagga
Yes,
had
yeah.
a bit of AFL footy, but sort of surrounding
it's
districts
both.
more.
It's rugby and it's NRL
Yeah,
and
yeah, right.
AFL. Yeah, so you
Did
sort
you
of
have a crack at rugby as well?
a little bit, yeah. Only up until I was about 12, and then was taking my footy pretty serious. So. Yeah, it was like NRL, like rugby on Saturday and rugby AFL on Sundays with the juniors.
So who would Coolman play? They were the
Like
Coolman
the Coolman Grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers, right? So would you play against Wagga teams?
Yeah, like we'd play against like we're in the RFL Riverina Football League, which was Wagga Tigers. We're playing against Gairmain.
That's an unfair advantage going and playing against a team like Wagga.
Yeah,
surely.
it's a big drive, 30 k's down the road.
But with the population.
Yeah,
Wagga,
there's a
it's
few
like
teams
a
and
little
everything.
city.
Yeah. There is. It is quite big, Wagga, but no, we always did fairly well. So no, it was grass living in the country and growing up. So yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything really.
Quinny, I'll put you on the spot. Who, from a sporting royalty, comes from, it doesn't have to just be AFL, there is AFL royalty, but from any sports, who comes from Wagga?
Wayne Carey, Mark Taylor,
Yes.
Michael Slater as well.
I think Michael Slater was a Wagga boy. There's another one who was a captain of the Swans. He lives there now on the farm.
Paul Kelly.
Yeah, very good.
There we go. I'll quit while I'm ahead.
There's plenty more, but we'll come back to them
But
later. As soon
it
as
is
we do some more
amazing.
Googling.
But what I do love, it's one of the unique parts of the world, though, where it's a strong AFL and a strong NRL area. It's very unique in that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. But it just sort of goes to, like you look at Lukey Bruce, I think he's a Temora boy, which is, again, just near Coolman. And like I would say that he's got the best step in the AFL. And I think that's like a little thing of like just the growing up playing. Well, we played a lot of touch footy coming through as well, and touch footy, rugby, and then just, rolling into some AFL. So it definitely helps for sure growing up.
And were the codes rivals, or did they work well in tandem?
No, there was always a bit going on. Like a lot of the Wagga boys were mainly NRL that I went to school with in high school, and I eventually moved up to Wagga to go there. And there's always a little bit of friendly banter, but there's a little bit of rivalry. Yeah.
What did you play growing up, Croft?
Well, I played marbles. That was a lot of fun. No, that was back in the day. No, we cricket and footy, and then BMX. That was the go. Love the BMX. Even Finley, little country town where I'm from, they had their own BMX track. So we used to have proper titles there, regional titles.
You're doing the
they'd
racing?
come from everywhere. Yeah, it was great. But then someone bulldozed the track. Too many bindies and too many snakes. So then we moved up towards Shepparton. But how did, like growing up in a little country town, I personally think it's, it was great growing up in a little country town because you had that freedom and that connection and real supportive the whole town is of you and your family or whatever it's going on, and they get behind everyone. Did you find the same way, or was it a bit different?
Definitely. As I said, I grew up there till I moved out of Coolum when I was about 16 or 17, and so I spent my whole life there when I'm growing up. And mate, it was one of the best things. I wouldn't change it for the world. And just getting to everyone in the town, and even to my story, I'm the first person to come out and play AFL from the town, and people still to this day are very proud. I'm going back to play country footy at the moment this year, and the boys from Coolum are messaging me saying when they can come watch me play, and they were always hitting me up when they were coming down. So mate, you never forgotten down there, and it's grouse.
How many pubs in a little country town like that?
Just two, top and bottom. So the town's split by the railway.
Right.
So you either lived in the top of Coolum or the bottom of Coolum. It's not segregation like that. It's literally just
1,000 people. So how far would the pubs be apart?
They're stone's throw, 200 metres. Yeah, there was one roundabout that sent you to four directions, but 4 different towns, and top pub, bottom pub, one footy oval, one town clock.
Yeah, my mates get thrown out of one pub and then they wander 100 metres down to the next pub.
Very
and
similar.
They get thrown out of that.
Very similar.
Finley's got a few more pubs, you get your choice, Quinny.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are the pubs different though? Would you go to one pub for a feed and one to watch the footy, or?
Oh, mate, I was pretty young. I don't remember. You could talk to the old boy. He spent a bit of time in them. So.
You normally have your locals, and sort of the oldies who, the regulars.
Yeah.
They're there at 11 o'clock having a pot.
Yeah.
And then you got the more trendy style.
Yeah, I think only one of them
encourage the younger generation.
I think only one of them had a TAB and pokies, so I think that was the pretty popular one.
That's mine. That's the one for me.
I can imagine it would have been mine too.
Not the pokies, but the tab.
Now, walk us through your junior footy career. At what stage do you think, hang on, I go pretty good this caper, and there might be an opportunity to play at a high level down the track?
I don't know. I guess all kids, you grow up and you want to do it. Probably around 12 or 13, I was like, I go right here. I can, and from that point, I put my whole life into it. I knew that was what I wanted to do, and stopped growing when I was about 12 too, which was a bit of a hindrance to me in the end. But from about 12 or 13, then just played junior footy the whole way. Ended up playing some senior footy for Coolman when I was 14. Just almost turning 15, and mum and dad weren't going to let me because they were a bit worried and everything. But it was cool. We ended up going to played in the grand final that day, and we kicked a massive score of about 6 goals. But luckily, I contributed 3 of them. So no, it was really cool getting to play against grown men at that age, and that definitely helped me going forward.
Was it rough?
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. You can imagine old cockies and farmers just rolling through, wanting to play some footy and everything. And but mate, it's a good league, and helped me through for sure.
And some of those guys don't have much skill level, so they go harder at the footy.
Yeah, it was more dangerous playing 2s than 1s. To be fair, if when you were younger, if you played 18s, you then want to play 2s. But mum and dad would just playing 2s was definitely more dangerous than playing 1s, because some of the blokes run around there just want to take your head off.
Yeah, my mum didn't let me play. I got picked to play for the seniors at Finley, and she said no.
How old were you?
Pretty much for the same reason,
yeah.
being small.
At about 14 or 15?
Yeah, yep. So I just started boarding school. I might have been a bit older, 16, but there's no way she was going to let me play.
Yeah.
So, so I didn't get to play senior football for the Cats. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
They might have you back one day. Apart from the physical attributes of them being bigger and stronger, do you think you learn a bit playing against the older men when you're still a teenager as well, just how to be crafty and how to manipulate the packs and move around?
Yeah, definitely. I was always played midfield coming through the juniors, and always you play pretty dominant like most kids coming through are, above the rest. And but when I played seniors, the only thing mum and dad would they didn't let me play in the midfield, so I just played forward. And
so they're picking the team.
Basically, Dad was president, general manager, and water boy. So mate, small town as I said. But it was literally they wouldn't let me. Well, it was a bit of everyone. The coaches they wouldn't let me play midfield, so I stayed in the forward 50, and I never really got to play much forward apart from Carlton and Coolman really in the end. So I played midfield for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was pretty cool to play some forward pocket there.
Now, at what stage do you think, hang on, I'm pretty good at this footy caper, but if I'm going to make it to the AFL, I probably need to get myself to the big smoke to get more eyeballs on me? At what age did you make the move, and what led to it?
Yeah, well, in the end, it was sort of a bit by chance. from small town, we didn't know a lot about. I played rep footy the whole way through New South Wales, but I never knew a whole lot of about the TAC Cup and everything. So it just happened by chance. The old boy bought a business in Albury. We moved to Albury, which has the Murray Bushrangers. And before we moved down, Dad was driving me down from Coolman on Sundays to go try out there. And I remember driving down 3 hours to Albury, get there for an 8 a.m. start, and there's 150 kids there on this tryout, and not one person knew my name. And so I was pretty I was like, geez, there's a fair way to go here before you're going to get anywhere. And it's a big eye opener. But yeah, stuck to it for the first 2 months of the preseason. Dad and I were driving down, twice a week, and I'll can never thank Mum and Dad enough for the amount of travel and everything they can do. I know a lot of people say that, but they helped me out immensely, and got to play Bushrangers for 2 years, which was amazing. Got to then really find out that that's a pathway to make it, the TAC Cup, and had a pretty good couple of years in the TAC Cup, and then leading into that, had a lot of interest going into the draft, but sort of knew that if it didn't work out, I was always going to head straight to the VFL. That was, because growing up in a small town, it's like the VFL is, the pinnacle. There's AFL, and then you can never play VFL. It's like, wow, that's insane. So if I never made the AFL straight out of 18, I was always going to chase the dream and just move straight to the VFL.
And who were the players at the Murray Bushrangers that were drafted early that have gone on and done quite well? And that would have given you a lot of confidence because that you weren't far off them. As in
before me, or like my year?
Well, during the time that you were there, was there any that got drafted?
So like Jars Impey was there when I was coming through. Jarman Impey playing for the Hawks now. A couple of the boys that got drafted around the same time as me. I don't think Nick Holman, he actually went early, and then he's still at Gold Coast. But yeah, no, there wasn't a whole heap really, to be honest. Yeah. Kane Turner, but yeah, there wasn't a whole heap for our year.
I suppose couple of the years after, you got guys like Clayton Oliver.
That's when they started coming through those system. Boys. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Who turns out to be not a bad
player. He's not a bad player.
But it's a good little competitive area, isn't it, from a football sense?
Yeah, massively, and it's also like the Murray Range takes in from Shepparton and Benalla. It's a pretty wide area. Yep. So it's cool to meet a lot of those boys growing up and going through.
Now, draft night, you were half preparing yourself for not getting drafted. Did you go in thinking, if I do, it's a great bonus, and if I don't, the next step is the VFL?
No, it was probably more the other way. I went to the Combine and spoke to 5 or 6 clubs, and then there was 2 that were pretty keen, that said they were pretty keen. And then
who were they?
There was Hawks and North. Mm-hmm. Hawks and North were both said they were pretty keen, and that was obviously the when it was still the national draft all night, and then the rookie draft the next day. And then had a bit of a call the night, an hour before the draft, and from my manager, and he just said, "Look, mate, I think we'll probably look to the rookie draft tomorrow. That's the conversations that are being had." So that was okay. Obviously, really disappointing. But the next day was probably the shattering one. I sort of had a phone call saying that, it's roundabout things, but I was pretty confident in going. Just speaking to both Hawthorn and North, they both sort of said, "If you're there, we'll take you." And then it was when you were rolling it through on your phone and you were refreshing and then it just never come up. So my name just never come up, and I remember I was shedding tears that day, and because I was like, that it was pretty heartbreaking, that one. But then, like as I said, I always knew I was going to go to the VFL from then, so it was just sort of like get back up on the horse and go again from there.
Who was your manager at the time, and what were the conversations like after that happened?
So manager was Nige Carmody. So Nige and I, we'd spoken about it previously, and we were just, at that point, we hadn't spoken a lot about where we wanted to go in the VFL, and I had no real idea. The conversation at that point was more so, will it be a standalone club or a line club? And then the breaker in the end was Hawks and North were both straight away. They rang me both straight away after the rookie draft and said, "We want you to come play for our VFL affiliates." And I just remember, like, I'm a pretty stubborn little guy, and
I would have done the same.
I was pretty stubborn, and I remember I went down to Melbourne for a day, like a weekend, and with Mum and Dad, and we spoke to 3 clubs in the end. It was Werribee, Box Hill, and Williamstown. And Williamstown is a different story, but those 2, and I'll never forget. I remember I went to Hawthorn out at Glen Waverley, and I went into the gym, and there was 2 lads that had just been drafted, and I remember, like, and I was like, I'm way better and I remember seeing them do the gym, like they're in the Hawthorn and stuff, and I'm like, there's no way I'm playing with these boys, and like, you know what I mean? Like, so I sort of, I was stubborn, and I cracked the shits, and I went, nah. So I literally went to the standalone club, and with no promises of anything really.
And that was Williamstown?
That was Williamstown.
With Andy Collins?
And that was in the end, that was the only...
great Andy Collins.
That was the only draw card for me in the end. Not like my old man is a mad Hawthorn fan his whole life. And I had a call. I had a lot of clubs ringing me, but I had a call and he said, "G'day, this is Andy Collins." He left me a message, and I sent Dad a message, and I said, "Well, who's this Andy Collins?" and he said, "Mate, we'll go meet him." And funny story, like very quickly, when I went down for this weekend, I went out and trained with Williamstown in the morning, and we drove out to Collingwood at Vic Park, and I was going to train with the boys, and I lasted all of 3 minutes. The first drill, I put my tooth through my lip, sent to hospital.
So Williamstown, you trained there.
Yep.
And then you go.
No, so I went to I went to Box Hill and Werribee.
Okay.
I went to Box Hill and Werribee, and then I was sort of, in my mind, I was pretty filthy at that. And then I went on the Sunday morning. We went up and we went to train with Willie, and I put my tooth through my lip. Spent 6 hours in the emergency just waiting. And at that point, I was like, "Get me out of this place! Like, get me home." And Colo rang me and just said, "Mate, like, stick around. We want to still speak to you." And mate, Colo was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my career. You would know him pretty well. And
he's a stubborn man.
Well, I've had some blues with Colo.
I've punched on with him my very first training session.
So have I, actually. Yeah.
Have you really?
Literally, yeah. So
what happened? What happened there?
Yeah, what was going on there?
It's like I just won my first listing, and then going into the next year, Colo, he always has like great ideas about how to get you drafted. He's very good at that. And same thing.
Was that the thing that he said, "Hey, I know you want to play AFL football.
Well, yeah. So
I'll help you get there."
Yeah, it was, and he backed me in from the start. He said, "Mate, I see that I can mould you into, like, I can get you there, and I see a lot of potential in you." And he just backed me. He just when I sat with him when I was 17, he just had so much confidence in me. Yep. I remember walking away thinking like, this guy believes in me. I want to go with this guy. And literally that was it. I never even heard of Williamstown. I didn't know where it was or what and it was the best 5. It was a great 5 years of my life. But yeah, to Colo, I just won my first list and we come back and he wanted me to play half forward because he wanted me to get drafted. And I still, as I was stubborn, I went, "No, I want to play on ball." And he didn't play me on ball for the first couple of rounds. And so I cracked the shits and I eventually went to him and said, "Play me on ball. Like, I'm a good midfielder. Play me on ball." And he played me on ball. And we played Essendon. I got tagged, and I played horrific. So we come in on Monday, and he just potted me in the meeting, and just went at me. And then Colo's very like old school Yabby Jeans. He used to have these attitude adjustment sessions where it was just no footies, and it was just like wrestle and punch on. And he started showing a drill once, and it was at the very end of training. And he was running through and he's trying to tackle the boys. And it just happened I was there and I went to run through and tackle him and he swung an arm at me and I sort of pushed him off and I was walking back and he chased me down and he tackled me from behind and then so he punched on the ground and he come up, he had a blood lip and then we had to get pulled apart. And but to his credit, I go out the next week and played probably one of my best ever VFL games. So he still lives by the fact that he's everything he does is for a reason. But yeah, he's a unit.
Yeah, he definitely is. And, I love all that. They're passionate, and that's exactly him as a player. Like, if you look at any of his old tapes, if his job was to shut down the small forward, he would not leave their side. He would just bash them. Yeah. Bash them within an inch of their life. He would just push them and prod them the whole time, not stop. And there's a reason why he was such a respected teammate.
Triple premiership, full-time premiership player.
He did such a wonderful job.
So how did you punch him with him?
Well, mine was our very first training session. I was obviously the young kid and he was the old one sort of on the way out. Like, he saw me as the threat.
Yep.
Although I said, "Mate, I don't play back pocket, mate." I said, "Please, leave me out." And no, so I had to hit him in the stomach. So he just had to do boxing sessions and cop it. And then the whistle goes and then you swap. But like middle of summer, we all had our tops off. And at Hawthorn, we used to live with our tops off. And hot and sweaty, so I'm throwing punches. And I've never been taught to fight. So I'm throwing punches, and then every now and then I do a few uppercuts, and it slides up and gets him on the jaw.
Yeah.
And then he looked at me, he said, "You do that again, I'm going to bash you." And then as the whistle went, I did it again. You know when you sort of say, "Don't look here" or "Don't do this," and then sure enough, hit him in the chest, and it slid up. The whistle went, everyone stopped, and then we were in the middle. I was fighting for my life. That was my very first session at Hawthorn. And then we had to get pulled away. Yeah. And one thing my Assumption College coach, Ray Carroll, said, AFL footy is very different to school footy. Everyone's there for themselves. It's a bit selfish. you've got to stand up for yourself, no matter who it is. So that was I've got to stand up for myself. You know, I've got to try and earn respect. You know, so throw punches back.
Yeah.
Don't, take a backward step, get in there. But, we had all the older players pull us apart, and I'm thinking, shit, welcome to Hawthorn.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
So, no, and Andy Collins was awesome,
Yeah,
and he's had a great reputation at getting guys like yourself who have missed their little opportunity early on in life and then getting them to a stage where not only Williamstown being very competitive, but making you players that AFL football clubs are going to look at and then take a chance with.
Yeah, no, I have a little story about Collie there, but mate, he's literally been probably the biggest influence on my career and getting me to the AFL. He was awesome for me, and you can say what you want about Collie, but mate, he's been so good for me, and I'll owe him a great debt for sure.
Now, obviously, playing VFL is terrific, but it doesn't pay like the AFL. While you were playing for Willie, what were you doing on the side to basically keep yourself afloat financially?
Yeah, I was trying to make AFL obviously all the way growing up, so I didn't have many life goals outside of that. So when I didn't make it, it was sort of, work out what you're going to do with yourself. And then, I ended up laying carpet for 5 years while I was doing part-time uni, and that was it was a tough caper, but my boss was a great mate. Like, they worked out, come to be a great mate, and he was really good for my footy and my schooling and everything. So, it was definitely something I wouldn't recommend to most draftees coming through.
Every house should have carpet. I love carpet, Quinny. I'm a carpet lover. Like, seriously. Like, I don't know what it is, especially in bedrooms, you get up to go to the toilet or whatever. You just want nice, soft carpet. Like, there's some really hardcore carpet. There's hardcore carpet here at Tabcorp. What are these called? These are called
Hang on.
tiles.
He laid this carpet.
I did, actually.
Did you?
I did.
I'm not saying that you selected them.
Mate, you guys got the cheap ones.
No. Well, I was going to say, this is not carpet. You want carpet to lay on.
This is carpet.
You want to be able to lay
mate.
on your floor. That's carpet tiles.
It's popping up here, actually. We better get that fixed.
Well, we'll fix that before you finish. But I don't know what it is, but I'm a carpet lover.
This is the most passionate I've seen you about any topic.
I love couches and carpet.
Well, we'll look into both those things for another podcast going forward.
It's got to be a wool.
Now, you played some terrific footy, Gibbo, when you were playing for Willie. You won, as we alluded to, a couple of individual awards, including 2 JJ Liston medals and a Norm Goss medal. You said you loved your 5 years at Willie. The only thing you probably didn't love is the fact you were there for 5 years, because the process when you started was probably get in, play well, go to the AFL. What was it like during that 5 years when you were playing some blistering footy, as reflected by this awards, but the opportunities were not knocking?
It goes in went in waves for me a little bit. It's good to reflect now, and I'd say I wouldn't change my journey. Obviously, if it happened early, it would have been grouse for me, but it didn't. So, but I come out of that 18s, wanted to make it. Once you get to the VFL for being 18, you realise it's actually a pretty hard caper to then go make that jump. So my first year I was in and out a little bit, and then had a pretty good next couple of years. So in my third year, after we won the flag the previous year, I went to a pretty good level in my third year and won the Liston and had a really good individual year. And I sort of thought...
Is that when you were made to play half forward?
Yeah, just before the next year. But then, so I sort of... And I had a bit of interest again from clubs then. And when it didn't happen, that one really broke me again. That felt like when I was 18. So that was... I sort of got... I went into the next year and put on a bit of a facade, really, and said, I don't care if it doesn't happen again. But full well knowing that, that was still the be-all and end-all for me. But the biggest thing I would say in that year, I found out that, once I got a really good work-life balance, I was going out on the weekends, I got a girlfriend, I was going to school, but I got a way better life balance, and I realised there was a little bit more to life than footy. So, and then from that point, I think I even went to another level with my footy. But the next 18 months, I wasn't too fast. I went into the next year knowing I wasn't really going to get drafted after the previous year. And then in my last year, I sort of went, took the facade off and went, no, I can make it here again. And this is my 5th year going in, and I went, and I had a really good year again, and won the league medal again, and it was probably my best year of VFL, and spoke to a couple clubs more seriously than I had for a long time. And then in the end, spoke to Freo and Crows, and just didn't work out for me. And I had and there was a lot of guys drafted from the VFL that year. I think it was like a record, and I was I think I was the only one that didn't get drafted. So that one broke me, and I was really considering I think that was sort of done me with the VFL. I was going to go play some local footy, and but the only reason I was going back for one more year, I was on 91 games with Willie, 100 games as life membership, and I'm like, I'm a pretty loyal guy. I'm like, I'd love to get life membership and and be a life member of the VFL club there. So I was going back. I was going to go back and play one more year, and then got the tap on the shoulder at work, or the phone call at work one day, and never looked back there for a bit.
Well, tell us about that phone call. End of 2018.
Yeah.
Who was the call from, and how did it go down?
Well, as I just said, I was pretty broken after the last time that year I didn't get picked. So I had a couple of mates come around and they consoled me in my shed, and tears were shed, and then I upped up and went to work again on Monday. It was, I had to get on with my life, and so I think it was the next 2 weeks I was back at work, and my boss and we just started. It was leading into Christmas, obviously at that time, and I got a phone call at about 9 o'clock. And I was like, I'll answer it at Smoko at about 11. And
Brad Lloyd, he was football manager.
Yeah, I think it was Lloydie. And then he rang again, and he rang again and left me a message, and I was like, I thought it was one of the boys taking the piss. So
and he was a Williamstown boy
he
himself.
was a premiership captain. Yeah. And then I never answered it, and then Nige, my manager, texted me and said, mate, you better take the phone call. And then, I think it was in the end, Doc had done his knee again the day before, and they just put this supplementary draft rule in or something, and because I didn't know anything about it, but literally that's how it happened. And I took the call. They wanted me in there that day, so that was about midday. I told my boss, and Muzz was like, mate, go for it, just go. I walked off site, and I went into Carlton, and then I was training the next day with the boys.
So what was the feeling?
I was terrified, and I was terrified.
Carlton,
yeah,
like, right, this is it.
No, I was terrified because I didn't really know, and I wasn't fit. I wasn't. I'd had 3 weeks of just not worrying about footy, and I'd fully given up, so I wasn't fit. I was pretty nervous, going far out. I don't know what I'm walking into here, and I walked in and literally went to training the next day. I think I got 2 or 3 sessions in before Christmas, the big break, and the last session we did was a 15, 16K session. Jack Russell was running it.
I was at that session.
Yeah.
I was at that session, and that was because Andrew Russell used to be at Hawthorn, and he's a wonderful fitness coach. He had great success at Hawthorn for 4 premierships at Port Adelaide, and then he was also Essendon as an assistant. And I said to him, I'm going to come down and watch training. And he said, come down to the last session before Christmas. He said, it's big. And it was the hardest session I've ever seen anyone train. The amount of running and the intensity was through the roof. So you've only done a few sessions and you were in that session.
I did that session, and
oh my goodness.
And it was 40.
Did you recover?
It was 40 degrees that day.
Yeah.
I think we went to the Black Swan to recover that night.
Wow. I don't even know how you got enough energy to go out that night.
But then even with that session, it's funny that you say you were there, because we finished the session, and it was an open session, and a couple of my mates come and watched it. We played a bit of match sim, and I was, wasn't much chop or whatever, but then we ran when the training finished, we went out around the back of the zoo, and we did hill sprints for about half an hour, and everyone thought the session was over. We went for another half an hour, and I had no idea what was going on, and
he was just trying to find out who can cope, who can't.
But I think in the end, that sort of helped me, those sessions. I got through that off of training twice, and then I went to, after Christmas, we had a session up in Mooloolaba where I won some hill sprints after another 16K session, and I think my work rate in the end was the big thing in the end that just got me there, because I don't have the attributes that everyone else has, so I had to do something half all right.
Well, you obviously had a very good off-season. You enter 2019, your first season in the AFL, and they think, let's just ease this bloke into his first game. No. Round 1, up against the eventual Premiers Richmond at the MCG in front of a capacity crowd. Walk us through the week leading up to that.
Welcome to the big time.
Yeah. No, it was pretty daunting. Pretty daunting and pretty surreal. I don't really remember much of the whole week leading into it, to be honest. I knew I was going to play. I played okay in the JLTs, so I got to play some JLTs, and I was only just put on the list a week before the JLT, kicked a few goals against Essendon, and then we played Collingwood. So and Bolt's come up to me early in the week and said that I was going to play, so that eased the nerves a lot. But
and he would have liked you, being a small man himself.
Yeah, he did. I think that helped me as well. Us
small men are going to stick together.
We do, mate. We do. But I think it was 90,000, and I did get there early that day and driving to the G, and I don't know if you'd know, when you get to the G with the parking passes, it's actually a nightmare. They don't tell you where to park. So I'm driving into the G, and the change rooms are there, and I drove 2 kilometres down to the other end of the G, thinking that that's where you park because it kept saying reserve. So yeah, I done about 4 k's of walking before I got back.
They must have given you a different pass to the one they used to give me. You know, mine used to be just outside the change rooms.
The Brownlow medal.
He's not joking.
No, I know.
No, it can be very confusing. That don't worry, and it's the same at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah,
Like the amount of times you couldn't find your car after a game.
Yeah.
You're like, where on earth? Which level? Which direction?
Yeah. No, but mate, I don't even think I played very well that night.
Kicked a goal?
No, I didn't. I kicked it behind.
Behind.
Yeah, I don't think I played very well, and we got beaten. It definitely took me a couple of games to settle into the AFL for sure. Like I was playing half forward and forward pocket, I'd never done it before. I'd been at Carlton for a month or two at that point, and Bolts was very honest. He said, "Mate, if you want to get a game, we're going to need you to play forward pocket." So that's what I put all my time into, and I was like, right, I'm going to be this little pressure forward, it's a tough caper. It is. It's a really tough caper. So,
it's a really tough caper at Carlton. You know, during that
was.
time because the ball wasn't flowing as quickly as it can, and then also your first game you play in Richmond, not a bad side.
Yeah, no, they just won the flag. Or did they just win it?
They lost the prelim.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah, but they still had the great list. So
yeah.
Yeah, not easy to get out there and play against a side like that.
Well, you played 21 games that season, so you couldn't ask for anything more than that. How long did it take for you to feel comfortable? And this might sound simplistic, but what were the biggest differences between VFL footy and AFL footy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was like the training, like the more week to week stuff. Like the training is so different. Like the loads and the the amount of the extra kicking, the amount of the vision you're watching, and like I loved it. Like I lived and breathed it. I loved it. But the actual game stuff wasn't like, it's definitely quicker and you have to be fitter and everything. But like I think it's almost easier to a degree because it's better standard. I guess that's a silly thing to say. It's easier, but it definitely once you're going a bit, it feels a bit easier. It's just more the week to week stuff is insanely different, and then dealing with the media and the pressure and stuff like that. I was highly touted coming into the AFL from the VFL. Everyone's thinking I'm going to go out and have 30 this every week because that's what I was doing in the VFL. But I knew in my head like that's what I wasn't going to do. But a lot of people at media, I caught my fair share of the media abuse in the first few weeks because, they got you in their super coach team and that's all they want from you.
But it's all to do with the role too. And you played a lot of midfield, but then all of a sudden you've got to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you can get picked up to go to a football club and then all of a sudden they want to change something about your position when your whole life has been, I've been floating around here and doing this. All of a sudden I'm in a forward pocket. Trying to learn that craft, and I'm learning it at AFL level. It's a bit weird how that all really unfolds.
Yeah, it definitely is. But look, I ended up having 3 years at Carlton. I missed one game in 3 years until I did my hamstring pretty seriously in the last year, which But after the first, I reckon 10 to 11 games. I think actually. Bolts, I think that was halfway through the year. He got sacked in the end. Teague come in, and Teague was my line coach that year as a forward coach, and he come in, and I think the whole list was rejuvenated there. And obviously, I wasn't there for a lot of it, but we played some really good footy in the second half of that year, and I actually thrived in the second half of that year too. And I was really enjoying playing footy, as a forward there and learning it. When it was good, it was good. It was just there is some games, like when you're that little forward pocket, sometimes it can be pretty grim down there.
Yeah. Yep, and you want to get the footy. You want to feel like you're contributing. And, you can be a pressure forward, but you can be pressuring but still not laying those tackles.
Yeah.
Yet you are forcing him to kick the ball a bit wider and a bit higher, but still nothing's really going on that stat sheet. So you still feel, am I contributing?
Yeah.
You want to get the football. You want to feel like you're actually getting your hands on it and you're having some influence on the scoreboard.
100%.
Your 3 years at Carlton, the Blues finished 16th, 11th and 13th. A lot of talent, a lot of promise, but unfortunately in those 3 years just never put it together. How frustrating for you was it when you'd have probably one step forward, 2 steps back, and what sort of frustration did you feel from the fans?
Yeah, hugely. One thing I did realise about going to Carlton is their fan base is far and wide. Like it is huge. Like once the boys get humming, and the boys are starting to go this year. Like once the Blue Baggers get going, mate, it's going to be. I think it'll almost be bigger than what Richmond have been doing the last few years because in terms of fan base, like it's insane there. mate, they've got every right to be frustrated. I think with us, those couple of years I was there, when Teague took over, as I said, we played some really good footy in the second half of that year, and then in no one's fault, the pandemic hit, and that screwed everyone around completely. Well, we played round one the next year in front of no people. I went from 90,000 people to no people at the MCG, which is such a hollow experience. And then, we're in hubs and everyone dealt with it differently. So that derailed a lot of teams, and it definitely derailed us. We probably didn't adapt very well to it. We found it hard like most teams, and I think that was a big one for us in that second year when we could have made the jump. We really could have made the jump. I think there was a couple of things that went wrong, and, like Charlie was injured for all that year. He's a massive player for us, and I think just a couple of things went wrong, which was really frustrating, and then just lingering frustrations, I reckon, took into the third year where, like my third year, which was last year, where we definitely underperformed. We were nowhere up to it.
Yeah, you had Brendon Bolton and David Teague, so, two very different coaches from, just even their demeanour. So, how did you appraise them? How did you look at them?
Bolts for me, mate. Like he backed me in when I got to the Blues. He's very much like Colo, to be fair. Like, he was honest with me at the start, and he just said, "Look, mate, this is, we've picked you. It's a bit by chance. You've worked your butt off. Like, at training, you've impressed us here at training. But," he goes, "look, if you want to play for us, you're gonna have to play this small forward pressure role. Because it's obviously not what you want to do. But if you want to play AFL, like, that's what you're gonna have to do." So he was open and honest with me. That was that got me my start, and I'll be forever grateful to Bolts for that. But like, with all due respect, I think when Teague took over, it freed me up a little bit. It definitely freed me up.
Pushed you up the field a bit?
Yeah, and Cripper's
So did you have good endurance? Was your endurance?
Yeah,
you had great speed. So
it was more the other way, mate.
Was it? You always seem quite fast.
Yeah, I don't know why
Maybe
people
it's the
say
small
that.
steps.
I'm not very quick. I'm deceptively quick.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
a little fun fact for you.
You seem to be reasonably quick, or you get to
maybe a little
agility-wise.
Agility, all right, but yeah, I become actually pretty fit through Russ just making me run up and down hills the whole time I was at Carlton.
So why didn't they throw you in the middle? Like,
in the end, I played a little
Paddy
bit.
Cripps, who's injured, and then you got a few other midfielders where they were trying to buy midfielders. So why didn't they throw you in the middle at times?
Yeah,
did they?
No, it became pretty frustrating there at one point. I end up, I'm not in no way talking crap or anything. I'm like,
no, but they pigeonhole. Okay,
yeah,
no,
I think
he's
in
our
the
small
end, I think
forward.
in the end that's what it was. Like, I definitely had some conversations where I asked John Barker. He was the mids coach at that time, and I used to pester him every week, because we would play match sim at training, and I would, I'd go pretty well, and so it wasn't like I didn't know how to play the position. And you at that time when we were struggling, and it was like, our mids weren't getting a kick. That's when I was like, well, let's just change something up here. But it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. For me, which was frustrating in the end. But
and it seems like this year, it's all about getting more through there. So it's such a fine line, isn't it?
I'm still pretty really good mates with all the boys, and one of my best mates from the club is Zachy Fisher and Fish and Doc and Big Cripper, and we're on the. I actually we're having a beer a couple of weekends ago, and they were just sort of like, they're going, "Oh, Gib, we feel a bit bad for you, mate, because the amount of boys that are spitting through the middle now, it's pretty unfair for you." So it does, like, it's definitely annoying, and I would have loved an opportunity.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Yeah, right. So do you still think you could play at that level?
Well, I think I can.
Yeah.
I think I can, and I know I can. But like, for me, I think it's done. Like, I spoke to clubs at the end of the year last year when I got delisted, and it was a pretty big shock there. I didn't really know that was coming until about a week before.
But even what's happened with the COVID situation.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't think I don't, unless you put the sledgehammer down and say, "No, it's done."
Yeah.
When you think of it and the way that the game style's gone this year, it's like the more people that can float through that middle, which obviously you can, the more people that can play multiple roles, which obviously you can play forward. You taught yourself at AFL level to play forward. So, and you need depth. Yes, you've got to bring young kids through, but there's only so many young kids you can bring through, and they can only develop at a certain speed. So it just seems like, and I was a bit shocked that you weren't, retained, on that list. And I can understand they bring in some big recruits and they're paying big money. So I'm like, I wouldn't give up on that. If that's what you still want to do, I still think there's going to be an open door somewhere.
Yeah, I think like there is, and I don't know, it's a bit hard to explain, but like
We've got the mid-season draft, have we?
Yeah, but it's hard to explain in terms of like I haven't given up on it at all into and I don't want to seem like I have, because I haven't. Like if there was a phone call that was to be made to me, like mate, I would jump at it without a doubt. I would jump at it, but like we just spoke about a little bit about my journey. Like I feel like I've done more than anyone to come through, and it's at the point where it's a little bit frustrating. Like I need to, I'm 26 and I've done
That's
a lot.
Young. That is so young.
Yeah, but I've done a lot of time. I've done a lot of time getting through and doing everything right, and I still did everything right while I was at the AFL, and I still didn't, and it didn't fall for me, which is just really frustrating. But there needs to become a time where I have to live my life and actually do something. Like I can't continue to live off of the bare minimum while trying to make the AFL. Like I don't think it's fair to myself, and I don't think it's fair to my partner and us really. Which is I know that sounds a bit sulky and but it isn't. Like I would still jump at an opportunity, but I just don't. I'm not chasing that right now. Like I'm not doing everything to please everyone anymore. Anymore.
No, it's a good attitude to have too. You just got to go, and that's why you're going to play some footy with Yarrawonga, which is a really strong league as well. You got teams like Albury who are always super competitive and really strong. And I think you just go back and just play. Just go and play, have fun, get involved in that. The standard's still very high, and I just wouldn't shut that door. I know you get on with your life, but I wouldn't shut that door, especially with as you have been a midfielder, yet you weren't really used through the middle, and the game's changed and the coaching's all changed within a couple of months. Yeah, it's amazing how the game style changes like that. New coaches come in, they play more attacking style, they throw more people through the middle. I just wouldn't shut that door.
Michael, tell us about the end of the 2021 season. You've played 47 games in 3 years. You've probably walked out of the end of the season thinking you've done really well and the team's going to trend in the right direction. When did you get that dreaded call in to have a chat, and how did it go down?
Yeah, it was, as I said, it was a bit of an odd situation there at the end. I'd never been injured. I'd played footy the whole way through. I'd never had a serious injury, and I did a little hamstring against Sydney in about round 11. Missed my first block of 2 or 3 games, and then coming back on the third week, we were playing Adelaide, and we were starting to get going a little bit there. The Blues, starting to get going, and then the last drill before training, Teague said he's like, mate, you'll come straight back in this week. So I was flying around, zipping around as a dude, little smart ass at training, and then the last drill, I just happened to try and kick the ball off the ground a little bit, and I got pushed in the back, and my hamstring actually exploded on me like it went. So there's a lot of people that don't really know that. I actually ended up going in for surgery on it, and then I had two surgeries after that because it got infected, and it completely opened up on me a couple of times, and I couldn't. And the surgery just kept. Not the surgery, the scar just kept reopening and reopening. So what turned from a 5-6 week hemi with the surgery ended up being about a 16-week thing, and I still have some issues with the scar at the moment. So there's a lot of people that don't understand, know that about it, and so that was, in the end, I was away from the club there for about 10 weeks, just bedridden, trying to get the scar to heal up. And I think in the end that might have hurt me, I guess. Like looking back, you question why things happen to you, and maybe that's what could have potentially gone against me in the end. But once the season finished, we had talks middle of the year with my manager that we were hopefully going to get a couple of years with the Blues, and we were really excited. And then once I was away from the club for a while, I went back in and I said to my manager, to Nigel, I'm like, what's the go here? Let's get this going again. And it was off the table. The club was also in that review, like the internal review or the external review, I should say.
You think that hurt you?
Yeah, definitely. Once that was called, I was away from the club. I wasn't involved in any of the process of interviews and that, because I was at home trying to heal my leg. And I think looking back at it, that probably made worst timing for me in my life, I guess. I've never had a serious injury, and I get my first one, and there's a big review in the club, and looking back at it, that's got to have hurt me because I wasn't around. And in the end there, I knew it was coming with about a week to go. Once Teague got the flick and Vossi got announced, I knew what was going on. I could sense it. They weren't speaking to me, and I was in the club at that point, still doing weights and trying to get my hamstring right, because I'd only just started running again. And no one was really speaking to me. No one was looking me in the eye there from the recruiting staff. So I'm like, something's going on here for sure. And then, I was at the club and I got a calendar invite while I was sitting at the club to have a meeting with the footy manager and the head recruiter the next day. And the day before that, I actually went in and I rang Vossy, and I didn't know Vossy from a bar of soap, but I said, mate, can I have a chat? And we went for a walk of Princes Park, and I actually just put my case on the line and I pleaded, like I just said, mate, I feel like I've done more than most to be here. And, I went through stats and I went through, because I could feel like and he was really receptive of that. He was really good. And I sort of walked away from that because, Doc rang me and said to do that because I told a couple of the boys, I feel like I'm going to be gone here. And Doc's like, mate, go speak to Vossy. Like, he'll love this. He'll love you. And I did. I spoke to Vossy. He was really receptive. But in the end, it wasn't Vossy's decision. 24 hours later after the calendar invite, I was sitting down. They told me I was gone, and so the whole meeting lasted about a minute or two, and that was it.
So just straight in, straight out.
Yeah,
they don't sugarcoat it.
I knew, and when I got that invite, I actually went in and I said, "What's the go here?" Like, I was at the club. I'm like, "If you're going to do this, just do it right now." And they said, "Oh no, we don't know," and that peeved me off a little bit, to be honest with you, because I'm like, I rang my manager. I was sitting in the car, and at the club, I'm like, "Mate, I've just got this. What's the go?" And he goes, "Go back in." And so I asked them, and they said, no, mate, just we'll catch up tomorrow. So we caught up the next day, and it was over Zoom. And they just, it was straight on, and then they said, you're gone. And I didn't ask questions. In the end, I was pretty annoyed, and that was it. That was gone.
And so when you were having a walk with Michael Voss, the great Michael Voss, pleading your case, so you're obviously just taking him through your journey, pretty much what you've done here. It's like, I've come from here, this is where I got to, I'll do anything you want, I've learnt a new role. And so what was he saying about all that?
He was really receptive. Like, Vossy was really good, and it wasn't more so about my journey, it was more so about my 3 years there. It was a little bit about, like, I'd transformed into what they'd wanted me to do. Like, I'd led the team for some assistance, involvements and everything, so I sort of laid that out to him, and he's like, look, mate, I completely understand that. He's like, we spoke for a good hour and a half. Vossy was really good for me, but in the end there I could see it, even him, a couple of things he was saying in terms of like, look, mate, I appreciate everything you've said, and like, but right at the end he just sort of said, look, mate, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't know which way the decision is going to fall. We have a list management meeting this afternoon. He goes, but I think if we've got you sitting there doing what you're doing consistently, you're going to play every week. And he goes, and then Carlton, where we're coming from now, he goes, if that we have 2 young kids that you're going to hold out to play, he goes, that's where the conversation is going to lie, which again I don't agree with.
Yeah, but who are those young kids that you're holding out? Well, and not only that, one thing I find very tough is like the coach is the coach. Yeah, you got a list manager, but I know plenty of coaches that go in there and say, no, I need this and I want this, and especially a new coach, you're going to want. But
would a new coach have less clout, though? Would a new coach be more inclined?
No, the new coach would be across everything, surely. Like, that's your job, Like, if Nick Quinn is named coach of the Richmond Football Club, you're going to do everything you can possibly do and know everything you possibly know and do your research. Like you do when you're studying the horses, you'll do your research and you'll watch form. You'll know which players have, given back over the last few years. You would have, been asking the questions to keep personnel
As
around
a captain,
what's going on.
Were you ever involved in those conversations?
It's very different as a player because as much as you kick up for players, I reckon at one stage, Raiden Tellis, we saved him from being on the chopping block because he was such a great team-orientated person and we wanted him, we didn't want him to go because we just thought he added a great deal. But it's very different from a playing point of view. They might ask you the odd question, but at the end of the day, they'll the coach will overrule.
I think the thing with that is too, like I kept it pretty quiet because I could see it going this way with about a week or so to go, and Doc was going through his treatment, and Doc and I are pretty good mates, and I didn't really tell any of the boys because I was like I didn't want to, I just didn't, kept it to myself, and Doc ended up finding out through our girlfriends are pretty good mates, and Doc rang me and he's like, mate, why wouldn't you have told me this? Like I can, we can try we can from it, like we're not going to obviously have much clout, but we can say from a player's point. So those, like, mate, all the lads were really good for me. They all, I think in the end, they all spoke up for me a bit. But look, it wasn't to be for me there in the end. It's pretty disappointing. I would still love to be there. Trust me, I wish I was. But yeah, there's not much I can do about it now, is there?
You mentioned Sam Docherty a few times. Ironically, he was the player that probably you got your opportunity through his misfortune. You've got a great relationship with him. There's not many more inspirational stories in world sport than him. Tell us about him as a person and everything you've witnessed him go through.
Mate, Doc's actually insane. Like, I can sit here and feel a bit sorry for myself in terms of my journey, and I've had some setbacks, but nothing compared to Sam Docherty. Like, I think that was his second knee to give me an opportunity to go on to the list. And Doc was when I got the call, Doc messaged me that night. He was going into surgery and said, "Hey mate, if one good thing can come out of this, I hope it's you." And it was a really nice text message.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was a really nice text message. And then met Doc, obviously, when he come back from surgery and become pretty good mates. And I'll just a quick thing about Doc. Like, I'll never forget, Fish and I, Doc had come out from about his third bout of chemo, and he just lost all his hair, and he still had the thing stuck in his arm that goes to his near his heart. And we were sitting at the front of his house, and he was like, he looked so sick and ill, and I said, "Well, what have you been doing?" And he goes, he goes, "Mate, I've just done 8 400s." And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, "Mate, I was meant to do 10, but I could only get 8 out." I'm like, "Mate, you're halfway through chemo, just relax." But like from like that, he knew from then that he was aiming for round one. Like, in the middle of his chemo, he was doing 400s. Like, I remember thinking to myself, looking at him, I'm like, that is just a different mindset. That Doc's an inspiration, mate. He's a legend.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, isn't it? And obviously loves his footy. He's got great leadership qualities, but to go through such a setback, not the cancer, but the knee, and then to get on the phone to you and say, "Hey, here's a great opportunity, go for it." That's someone who thinks of others.
No, he does, mate. Doc is, Doc and, he's not captain there this year, but trust me, mate, he's still involved in absolutely everything. And all the lads, he'd still be the first bloke there ringing. He's one of a kind, Doc.
What about Sam Walsh as a player? When I say his name, what comes?
No, so Walsh is and Corf, you can attest to this. You've seen some some unbelievable trainers coming through, and without they're the stories of you being a great trainer. And I just remember, coming from the VFL, I was working and then going to training, and you sort of roll out and you'd get through, and then you get to AFL, and the step up is incredible. And I just remember this 18-year-old kid Walshy, and I was like, far out. He took the training to another level. Walshy's like one of a kind. I reckon he's the hardest trainer and the most professional kid I've ever seen in my life come through. Even through AFL, the 3 years I was there, him, Cripper and him, Walshy's on another level. I reckon, just the way he trains and prepares, but then just has the best balance in terms of he's humble, he's not cocky, he can take the piss out of everyone. He has a beer with the lads. He's just, Walshy's a star, mate. Yeah, he's a star.
He's a machine.
He's an absolute star. Round 1, 2022, Carlton up against Richmond. Your first game not at the club. The Blues do something they haven't done your entire time there and beat Richmond. What were your emotions like watching that night? Yeah, so I actually went, and it's probably a regret now, because I shouldn't have went. As I said, I was pretty annoyed with the decision, but I got to the point where those boys are my mates. I want those guys to succeed. They're still some of my best mates. So I want the lads to succeed, and even still to this point I do. So I sort of thought I'd be okay to go to the game, and I'm going back to play in the country as we spoke about. So I'm like, it'll be an opportunity for me to go back. I won't get to go. And when I went, it was really cool watching. I got to see Doc kick his goal, and that was an awesome moment. But then, when the final siren went, it was a pretty hollow feeling. That was a weird one. I thought I was okay all game, but then once the final siren went, again I was happy for the lads, but I was pretty jealous, I would say. And it was an odd experience, that one. And they've started quite well, the Blues as well. Is that another added frustration when you've done 3 years where it's been really challenging for the football club, and now it's almost like you've put in the hard yards and these guys are enjoying the benefits? It is. But not only that, you got Eddie Betts who goes out of the side. Yeah. So that's one of the great all-time smalls. Yeah. So you're competing, not necessarily with him, but you're all getting into the same spots. So it's like, well, hang on, Eddie Betts is not there, so you're going to need someone like myself. And I know we keep going on about it, but it's
it's such a fine line, you know.
Yeah,
if,
it
if
is.
the ledger goes one way or the other.
It's
but,
sort of,
and I, the feeling from going to that first game, I totally get it. You know, like you know, it hurts you inside, but that's just because you got great pride and passion about what you can do and what you're capable of doing.
Well, I think to that, like, it's not, like I say jealousy, but I guess like the frustration comes, Quinny, from like the boys are going well this year, so it seems as if, like, I don't think I was ever the issue why we weren't going well, but it seems as if, like, you know, I'm gone, not that I'm the, you know, but it's a fix, like, it's sort of, so I guess that's where the pride comes into a bit. It's like, well,
it doesn't work like that. I know you probably think like that, but it definitely doesn't work like that. There's maturity, there's a couple of new midfielders that come in, you know, the team's probably balanced up a bit better. Few of the key forwards are standing up, so there's a big difference to what's going on.
Yeah, having those two big tall timbers up
can
forward
we?
helps.
I know we've been talking about footy, which is great, but I want to get back to this carpet. So,
give it to me.
One thing about when you're laying carpet is you've got that thing that you've got to throw your knee into.
The kicker.
That can't be good for your leg.
It's horrific, mate.
Yeah.
Horrific. So this stuff here.
How many times, like if you're laying carpet for a full day and you just how many times would you be laying the knee into that machine that then plants the carpet into the ground?
Well, a little 4x4 room like this. This stuff is carpet tile, so this is glued down. So you don't actually do that. You just lay these. But when you're kicking out a room, mate, I was lucky. I never done it. My boss never really let me because of footy. But you're kicking it out probably 60 to 70 to 80 times in a room and just hooking into it. Yeah. Mate, my boss was 40 and he looks like he's about 60 the way he could.
You
can't
go and
walk.
watch carpet layers when they've got that. What do you call that?
The kicker.
Oh, you call it a kicker.
Yeah.
And they're kneeing that so the carpet's nice and stuck to the wall and stuck to the floor. And I'm thinking that can't be a great career move, especially as a footballer.
No, that's why they kept me off it.
I've seen him passionate about two things: partying with Buddy Franklin and carpet. So there we go. That's the common denominator. What's the boss's name? Because it sounds like he's really looked after you over the years.
Muzz, Andrew Murray, Muzz. So he'll be watching the tape. He'll be putting a race on now.
Is he a blues man?
Nah, he's just a
a man.
He's just a man's man.
Who's he follow?
I think he's Richmond or something.
Yeah,
but
cool.
he's just wherever the bandwagon is. He's one of those guys.
Oh, he's one of those.
Yeah.
Now we're going to finish with some hard-hitting questions.
Give it
It's
to
been
me.
great chatting to you today. You've played 47 games. We're not shutting the door on your AFL career, so hopefully there's more games to be added. We have to update this podcast in a few years to add the extra games.
Hang on, has Yarrawonga started?
Yeah, we started last week.
Oh, how'd we go?
They're
the Pigeons, Yarrawonga Pigeons.
Yeah.
Another
Great.
intimidating name.
The great
shout out to Fev.
The great Brendon Favola was there, and Matty Tripp was very much behind the football club. You know,
Yeah, Matty Tripp lives a couple of doors down from us there on the water, so it's. I met him the other day. He's a nice guy.
It's a small little shack down there.
It would be. Yeah.
Is he paying you to be there?
Huh?
He paying you to be there?
No.
Add an extra zero if he is.
But it's a very good standard of football. So did we win?
We did. Yeah, we beat Wodonga.
Okay.
We smacked them by about 10 goals in the end.
Very nice.
Here we go. The hard-hitting questions. This is where we shine. Favourite food?
Pasta.
Favourite drink?
Whiskey.
Whiskey.
Best sledge you've ever heard on a footy field?
It's probably from yourself, yeah? Because you're a bit of a yapper, no?
It wasn't a sledge, but I was a massive Hawks fan growing up, and I used to idolise Sam Mitchell and Luke Hodge, and we played Brisbane. And I started getting a kick this game, and I ran past him and tried to jab him in the guts.
Hodgie?
Yeah. And he just looked at me and just went, like, just who are you? Like, didn't even say anything. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I thought I was like, oh, if only you knew, mate.
Didn't even need to waste
Wasn't
the
even
words.
a sledge, wasn't it? He just looked at me, so.
I like that one. That's the first time I've had someone insert themselves in that. Normally it's I heard this or this happened.
No.
And best spray you ever heard from a coach?
It would just have to be Colo and I punching on. It wasn't much of a spray. It wasn't many words said again, but yeah, we just sort of went toe-to-toe there.
The first player to win 2 JJ Listons, a Norm Goss, and punch on with the coach, you reckon, Croft?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Michael Gibbons, we've loved having a chat to you. Hopefully there's another chapter in the AFL career.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it.